And we're here today because we have actually a really good opportunity in coordination with the Florida Department of Transportation. The county will actually be taking over State Road 758 or Midnight Pass Road, in addition to Sticky Point Road, the portion from 41 west. So it's a provision of a road transfer. The county is giving the state River Road from 41 to 75, and they're spending roughly $50 million to widen that road, along with the county's $25 million to build that project starting next year. A term of that agreement was that the county would take over these roads on Siesta Key and in perpetuity. But the state has committed to providing an intersection improvement project that's also part of, good, thank you, sir, a larger project, which is resurfacing Midnight Pass Road all the way from the Sticky Point Road up to Shadow Lawn Way. So they're the part of this reconfiguration of the intersection, Midnight Pass Road and Beach Road, has been in the works for several years. It got started back in 2015. The state actually came and had a meeting, I think similar to this, a workshop, and provided some alternatives to the community. You want to go ahead and go to the next one there. So in 2015, they provided those three alternatives. One, obviously, is a no-build alternative. The second alternative was to improve the existing signalized intersection. So to remain with your red, green, yellow lights, pedestrian crosswalks, and I'll go into more detail on that. And the third option was to reconstruct the intersection as a roundabout. And in 2015, at that time, the public was not in favor of a roundabout. So the DOT, while they were informally in favor of a roundabout, they did decide to move forward with alternative 2, which was the signalized intersection. And currently, from 2015 to now, they have gotten to approximately 60% design. And this all aligned with our road transfer project. And the question arose at some point, is there any consideration to revisit the design of this intersection as a roundabout? And so we talked to the county commission a week or so ago and asked them if they were interested in us going back out to you all, the public, to see if there was interest in a roundabout or not. And that's why I'm here tonight, is to give you some information on those two alternatives. I'm not going to consider the no-build alternative because the state has budgeted money for this project. And so there isn't a monetary investment, so to speak, for the construction. But there is an alternative for us to consider. When I go to the next page there, consider a roundabout that the state said that they would fund. The cost for that is about $1 million more than the standard signalized improved intersection, and we'll go about some of the details on that. It's really about what I just mentioned, design of a roundabout. If the county commission were to receive favorable input or make a decision that they wanted to pursue that option, we would have to bear the cost of that. That is the cost of receiving that additional $1 million from the state to build a roundabout. So a little over $300,000 to do that design is what we're estimating. And we would have to complete that design by this time next year, and the state would start construction on either one of these projects in the spring of 2022. So that's the time frame for the improvement. So there will be some construction activity out here in the spring of 2022, hopefully carrying it through, the first, just after the season in 2021-22 season, and then get it through. It will probably be into the next season regardless, but the DOT will be managing that construction project. Next slide, please. So here is the proposal for the improved signalized intersection. You'll see some fairly major changes here. And if you look at the map, you'll see the biggest changes are that they're taking out those free flow lanes that are on either side of the north side of the intersection and turning them into standard turn lanes. So the next page goes through a couple of the alternative options on this. So those free flow right turn lanes will be eliminated. You'll still have crosswalks on the north side and the west side of the intersection, and you can see that those are in an orange color on that right graphic. Those are conceptual graphics at this point. Obviously, they're at 60% designed with this effort. But one of the things that is a little less desirable about this option than the roundabout is that it retains all of the existing conflict points. So a conflict point is where you have the chance to interact with two of the same entities have the chance to interact with the vehicle. So a pedestrian and a crosswalk within a travel lane would be a conflict point. A road intersection point where two cars can collide would be a conflict point. So in all designs, we try to minimize the amount of conflict points within an intersection. With either of these options, we don't anticipate any needs for additional land acquisition, and the fire station would also be accommodated with both alternatives as well. Let's see. With this, one of the big things that we've heard about talking about this, we had a Zoom call back in May just to test the waters a little bit with several members of the Siesta key stakeholder community, and we heard that the biggest concerns for any alternative other than the signalized alternative were pedestrians, and then the familiarity with something different, like a roundabout. So pedestrians in this case would all be controlled by pedestrian crosswalks, your standard push button, and then you would go upon a hand signal to proceed. And that is a little different than a roundabout, which we'll talk about as well. The other areas in here that are different, you'll still have the same turning movements. They will be a little more straightforward because you don't have those free flow lanes any longer. Next picture. There you go. So these are some more concept plans of what it would look like. Honestly, it would look fairly similar to what it does now. You just wouldn't have the landscaping, that one little landscape triangle that's in the middle of the road there between the northbound turn lane on the northbound direction. And then there are some landscaping that would be involved as well with this project, but it, for all intents and purposes, would look pretty similar to what it is. And the computer models, obviously, they show some things in here that aren't exactly correct with the topography out there, but it is generally what the design for the signalized intersection would look like. Next, sir. Okay, a roundabout alternative. This is the overall picture of what a roundabout alternative would look like. Again, the rights of way are generally the same. It does have the three approaches, and then you would actually add a pedestrian crossing approach on the east leg of the roundabout. So if they oriented north, east, and west, there is not a current crossing on the east side, but you would pick that up with the roundabout. One of the things here, all roundabouts, if you've seen them, there are many, many more throughout the county and the city as you drive around these areas. But they do have a landscape feature in the middle. Next slide, sir. So these are some concept drawings of what a roundabout would look like. Some of the items for this, you take that signal out, obviously. The landscape island in the middle, you have the opportunity to create a little more sense of place there with that roundabout and an entry to the island on the south end of the village here. Overall delay traffic studies have determined that it is a more efficient intersection as far as moving vehicles in and out of the intersection. Instead of stopping, you proceed through a roundabout on a yield. And then there are some conflict points that are removed, 3 of the vehicle conflict points, and then 1 of the pedestrian points. That 1 pedestrian point is the crosswalk with that slip lane that goes through on the northbound turn today. So that is what it would kind of look like. If you go to the next slide, there's some more concept drawings here of what it would look like. And obviously there's a little less land than that on the beach side, but it is different looking, but it does match kind of the sense of space and place that the area is taking on. There are quite a few roundabouts, and that may be one of the things back in 2015 is there were less roundabouts, and some of the previous issues that the county had with roundabouts maybe had some influence on that. But especially, downtown Sarasota, they're building a lot of roundabouts there on 41 and downtown itself. Next slide, sir. One of the concerns we also heard about was the ability for, if traffic is backed up from Stickney Point Bridge all the way to the north, and it backs up through that intersection, right now you have the ability to get into the left or the northbound turn lane onto Midnight Pass to get out to Siesta Drive. So you can, there's so many designs for roundabout. They're very, very functional as you can design them how you need to manage your traffic. This is one that I found a picture of on the internet. I did do a little photoshopping to it to be a little bit more specific to what we're looking at here. You would have a dedicated left turn, so to speak, to get around that side of the roundabout, and then a dedicated through lane. So when people, it would be signed appropriately. So if you're approaching the roundabout, you would get in your correct lane and then move through the roundabout appropriately. So those kind of things, those traffic movements can be handled fairly well with the roundabout as well. And then you see there are the crosswalks in this picture. Pedestrian safety, of course, is number one. We know that there are a lot of folks who come from here. I guess they do valet parking or paid parking here and walk through that intersection to get down to the beach. One thing that would be advantageous is the crosswalks would be much further away from the intersection with the roundabout. You actually have them back off of the intersection so they do cross at a more controlled location. It's not signalized, it could be. There are options. Some of the roundabouts in downtown Sarasota are putting in what they call a hawk system. And it's, for all intents and purposes, a traffic signal for pedestrians. So they step up to the signal, push the button, and it goes through a few phases. That will take some adjustment for people to get used to initially. But if you've driven down, there's an existing hawk system right out in front of the Ritz and the Embassy Suites there. So those are options to consider during the design. Yes, sir.
When you're going north, it kind of does back up through there.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody was coming down Midnight Pass and wanted to go around and then head south,
yes,
but it was all jammed up. Is there enough room to have like 3 lanes on one side, on that side?
probably not. Yeah, probably not for this area. To not have to acquire any right of way, but there could more than likely be some conditions to make that traffic flow a little more clear. The last thing you want to have is real congestion within a roundabout. The idea is to keep traffic moving, but if you do have traffic backed all the way up in one direction, like say from Stickney Point Bridge, it may be an issue, or backed up from the beach to the south. But majority of the time, that's probably not a concern. But when you do have those issues, you do want to be able to have an option to get out. And I think that could
Go this way.
Right.
Where cars would be blocking from being able to get out of Midnight.
To go to the north.
To south.
So off Midnight Pass to get around and go to the south. Right.
That's the way.
Yep. And okay. Well, and if it's backed up going northbound, is what you're saying, right? To get through.
Yeah.
Okay.
At sunset every night.
Yeah, you may have this very same situation on that approach, where you have 2 lanes coming in, and then you do weave within the roundabout, and you take that through lane to go south.
That'd be great.
So if those are things that we need to consider in a design, and that would certainly be part of it. Okay, I'll take you first. Yes, sir.
2 observations. Number 1 is, so you're saying there's no lights, so it's kind of at the discretion of the driver. My observation is a light versus discretion. The light wins over the discretion almost all the time. The second thing is, I ride my bicycle 100, 150 miles a week around this island. I know every square inch of this island. I don't see how bicyclists get through this.
So in a roundabout design, a lot of the times they'll take the bicyclists off the road.
Right, but you've got pedestrian things, which means you're going to be challenging with pedestrians and runners, which is another challenge.
Right, and so those concerns, when we got into a design, if we were to go to the design, those are certainly things that would be evaluated.
We'd have a dedicated bike lane, traffic lane, and pedestrian lane.
Possibly. I'm not making any
I
promises.
can just tell you, as a guy who does it all the time, the pedestrians are always in the bike lane.
Right.
And I'm just telling you, that looks like a disaster from that standpoint.
Okay, very good.